Hey everyone, good evening. I want to give everyone a few minutes to join. It has been a while since I've done a live stream like this. I've missed you all very, very much. I've missed doing these live streams, but I'm so glad to be back tonight. And for anyone that is watching or watching the replay later, I'm going to be doing this more, but I'm going to be doing it probably later at night like I'm doing now. It's basically been a transition period for me with doing having the kids here full time, and I think I'm finally at a spot where I've come to admit that late at night is going to be the best time for it, just because the kids are, it's harder to do work with the kids and so forth. But I do look forward to getting back to it. And again, I'm probably going to try to do it between like 7 and 8 Eastern time most evenings. So hey, thank you so much for joining, Robin. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And today what we're going to do is we're going to basically talk through storytelling, sharing your story with the world about deconversion. Robin says, I'm a night owl, so I'll probably catching more lives. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. I'm figuring there's got to be some people in the group that do stay up late. I used to stay up late, but with my kids, they go to bed early, of course, and get up early for school. And even though it's not school time anymore, the summertime did just start for them. I'm keeping them pretty much on the same schedule. So it's pretty much a case where they go to bed early, and I've been trying to match with them and go to bed early as well, but I think this is going to work out well. So anyway, we're going to talk today about the idea of you being able to share your story. And so I want to say a couple things here just to get started. Number one, if anyone does want to come on and actually share for 5 minutes, feel free. You just need to, of course, have some kind of earbuds so we don't have a feedback loop, or headphones, and of course a camera. You could probably use your cell phone as well. But I have an eye injury, so it looks like you're in a pre-suit. Oh, Disillusioned Pony Tricks. I have an eye injury, so it looks like you're in a pre-suit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare anybody. I'm not going that route. I'm not going to be a priest. But anyway, one of the things that's fun about what I do is that you do have the chance to hear people's stories, but I do get the sense through the grapevine sometimes that some people probably just don't feel up to it yet to do something that long of a story where it's like, a good, hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm going to do some of these from time to time. And again, I'm going to try really hard to eventually work my way up to doing these almost every night. It won't be every single night, I'm sure, but I'm sure I'll have a few of these. But if anybody has been thinking, I just want to share something short, Now, on the note of shorts, I wanted to mention that as well for the word short here, no pun intended. The YouTube has shorts now, of course, that used to be a minute long. Now they're 3 minutes long. If anybody does want to share a short where they want to share something with me to put on the channel, please let me know. Please, I can make different ways for you to get it to me, either through Facebook or email, or we can work through like a Dropbox kind of thing. But if you want to send me it where you don't want to do it live like this, but you want to record it and sort of record it over and over until you feel like you're happy with it, that's fine. And I'll just stick, a little bit of extra editing on there for my channel and then pop it on there. Please let me know. Susanna Billingham did it from Scotland. She did it before, and just people have had so many positive responses to it. Susanna did a great job. So check that out in the shorts. I'm hoping to do more shorts anyway, but feel free to add yourself to that list. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you. And so again, if anybody wants to join, the link is in the comments there. I'll add it again in a few minutes. But I thought until someone jumps in, I thought I would just share a few thoughts about storytelling for this channel. And this would apply to if you want to come on for 5 minutes a little bit, but it would probably really apply more for the people that are thinking of doing an interview at some point. But even though some of this is more related to the concept of if you wanted to do an interview with me at some point, I would love to be able to hopefully have it to a point where you could say these are important topics for two other reasons. Number one, for you to heal. When you go through some of the stuff I'm going to talk about tonight, not to prepare to do an interview, but to prepare to talk through it yourself, to sort of heal yourself through this. Some of these things will help you. They've helped me a lot. And this list isn't going to be exhaustive, of course, but also I think it'll help you to think through how to better share your story with other people that might be like Christians that are really curious and they're on the fence about whether they really even care about your story because they know that their worldview is correct and exclusively correct in their mindset. But it might help you to think through how do you share it in a way that is sensitive to where they are, but also gets to the meat. It doesn't just tell a timeline, but actually gets to the heart of it. So I should mention that I do have 4 kids asleep in the other rooms. And so if one of them comes, daddy, I've got an owie, or daddy, I need help, I'm going to have to pause for a second. So I apologize if that happens, but should just take a minute or two and I'll be right back if it does. But again, since I'm doing this so late and they're all sound asleep, hopefully we'll have luck most of these nights when we do this. So again, the link is in the one of my comments there, and feel free to jump in if you'd like to just give us 5 minutes of a quick story. In terms of some of the thoughts I had for tonight, again, until we have anybody that jumps in, I wanted to start by just talking about beginning the storytelling process with your emotional truth. I mean, when you're telling your deconversion story from Christianity, you want to tell it not just as like a memoir. Hey, Stephanie, it's not late in terms of lateness. I am an adult and I can stay up late. But what I was saying before, probably before you jumped in, was my kids for school during school days, they get up early. We get up about 6 o'clock in the morning. And even though it just turned into their summertime, school's over, I'm going to keep them on the same schedule. So we're going to be going to bed early and getting up at 6 a.m. There's several different reasons for that, but it's working out really well for us. So I'm not really, it's not really late, but I definitely appreciate my sleep when I can. I try to sleep when I sleep. But anyway, when you tell your deconversion story, you're trying to do it not just saying, I want to tell what happened, like this happened and this happened. You're trying to tell it in a way that's compelling and memorable even for the people that are listening. You're not just trying to lay out facts. You're in a sense inviting people into the way that your mindset, your soul, if I could borrow the word, the way that your soul unraveled through deconversion, through the rebirth, through the being born again. And so you're trying to do it meaningfully, powerfully, in a way that really gets to a point where you're not just telling your story, you're telling your journey, your true journey. And so I would say you want to begin with a sense of the emotional truth behind it. You don't want to just tell us what happened. You want to tell us how you felt. So you say, I remember laying in bed. Maybe I was 12 years old. I was terrified that I had committed the unpardonable sin. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. The world was crushing me. I couldn't sleep. And hell and the flames to come felt more real than the mattress under me. It could be something as simple as I was in church and I just felt like I was alone, like I couldn't reach God no matter what I did. Anything that you feel. I think a lot of times, a lot of us end up feeling alienated in church, alienated from reality, as well as from ourselves, from our bodies for years, and we don't have the words to really say it. But there's certain junctures where you end up, jumping into that point where you're saying, suddenly, I have the words for it. And it's often a very intense time, right? It's an emotional time. That's where you want to start with. You want to say not just what happened to me, what did I do, but how did I feel? And again, for a lot of us, it's going to incorporate things such as shame, such as alienation, fear, all those things, just being a disappointment, being worrying. Am I crossing God? Am I not meeting His approval? Things like that. So that's really important. I see someone jumped in the back stage here. Thank you for joining. If you want to work on getting your camera up, feel free. And once I've got your camera up, I'll add you to the stage. Hey, Cold Iron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. So glad to be back here. We'll be doing more live streams, hopefully every night or so, and try my best to be more consistent with this. It's again been for anyone that's joining us late, it's been a bit of a journey, being a single dad of 4 kids and trying to make it all work, juggle it all. But I think the late night for me, live streams is going to be a better choice. So we're going to do this for a while and see how it goes. And Stephanie says, I think AA made me an atheist. Yeah, it's amazing how when you look at what AA encourages you to do, you realize that the higher power is really you. You have to be the higher power. And so again, we'll wait for the whoever's wanting to join there. We'll wait till your camera's up. I would say another part of this for me that's important is you want to establish the depth of your former belief. For us here on this channel, it's going to be mostly Christianity. But if it's true for you that you were all in, you were on fire for the Lord, you were not going to be satisfied with living in Laodicea. You wanted to not be lukewarm, but to be truly on fire for God. You wanted to turn the world upside down. You loved Jesus. You loved the gospel. You loved the Bible. You loved his church. You loved worship. You couldn't wait to see his face the day you passed from life into eternity. You couldn't wait to be able to say to him, thank you so much for rescuing me. Thank you for being my good father. If that's how you felt, if that's what this was all about to you, the reality, then tell us about it. Tell us about how you were not a casual or cultural Christian. You could talk about how you memorized entire chapters of books, not because you had to, but because this was like a love letter, and you were absolutely enthralled with your Lord and Savior and with his book. I remember for me, that was exactly what happened even as a young child. When I was homeschooled, I was required to listen to one single radio program of one preacher, and I picked John MacArthur for years and years and years. Those 30 minutes were the requirement, but that wasn't what I did. I did probably 2 to 3 hours or more a day of listening to preachers voluntarily from the time I was, 7 years old. When I was asked at homeschooling to read one chapter of the Bible a day, I was reading 3 or 4 books a day. Obviously not the big ones, but if you're reading like a couple chapters from Genesis and then Ephesians and Philippians and all that, you can get through quite a bit. That was my love. That was my life. And so you want to talk about what was it like to fall in love with Jesus Christ? Because there's a monologue I was working on before, and I mentioned it before, and I'm going to be bringing it to our attention here shortly. It's not going to be on the live streams. It's going to be recorded, but it's called Christianity Broke My Heart. And I think that's an important way to put it. That's not my phraseology that I came up with. When I was deconstructing and deconverting, I saw someone else had that title for one of their videos. And I think it was absolutely just, I don't remember everything that they said and if I agree with it all, but I remember that title thinking that's a perfect way to put it. Christianity broke my heart. But if that's true of you, that it really did break your heart, then tell us why. Tell us why. Tell us why you prayed for revival in your high school or your family. Tell us why it broke your heart to have Uncle so-and-so not be a believer. Tell us about the souls. Tell us about when you saw people focused on TV and movies and games, that instead your every thought, your every focus was the fact that these people are going to hell someday, and I have to share the gospel with them, and I have to live in a way that makes it attractive. Tell us about that. Another section I would say to really think about is to really go through the theological framework that you were raised in. It's going to be different, of course, for all of us, but be able to share in your story, some of the technical terms, but tell us more how that related to your love for Christ. Because for a lot of people, it isn't just, well, I just happen to be Reformed, I happen to be Pentecostal, I happen to be whatever the specific denomination or theological framework was for you. But you want to define it, number one, so that others can just understand it. And, you're going to find some people that relate to it, even parts of it. But as they understand the flavor of your indoctrination, even if it was different, they're going to be able to understand why you say certain things. And so for me, for example, Calvinism is a big deal, so I bring it up. For someone else, Calvinism might not even be a word that they, rarely if ever heard. But Calvinism for me was a dominant force of my life for at least 10 to 15 years of my time in Christianity. and Reformed theology, etc. But when you begin to explain that, you want to explain what are the big pieces of that meant a lot to you. So, for example, it meant the world to me. And look, James is up on the video, so James, I'll bring you up in 1 second, okay? Just finish out this one point. When you are able to explain and make correlations between the theology and your actual lived experience in a way that shows you are passionate about learning what the Bible meant, but also falling in love. Again, this wasn't a belief system only. This was a worldview, and to you, it was a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so the more that you can explain how the theology dictated what you lived and how you prayed and how you breathed, that's going to help people understand where you're coming from. And again, this is all stuff I'm explaining, but you would do it quickly in your interview. But the more that you think through it as you're preparing, the better. I'm going to go on to another point in a minute, but I'm just going to bring on James, and then we'll go to some comments, and then I'll get back to it unless someone else is able to jump in. So feel free, by the way, to jump in backstage with that link. I'll put the link in the comments here again, and we'll just take 3 to 5 minutes maybe for each person and share your story. But I'm going to see if James is able to. James, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I've got you. Can you hear me?
I can. Looks like you're out trucking. Is that right?
Yeah, I drive a truck for a living. That's what I'm doing. I go down the road and I listen to your videos. It passes the time pretty well.
Well, thank you so much. And what would you like to share with us tonight?
I just, I don't know. I felt like maybe it was time for me to reach out a little bit and talk. Um, I wouldn't say that I've fully deconverted or anything, but I am definitely on a journey because of all my questions and the things you bring up and the things uh, on other YouTube channels, and it's just made me think and reflect on my past and what got me into Christianity in the first place. And I don't know, it was on shaky ground, I think. I remember can you still hear me?
Yep, you're great.
Okay. I remember I think I was like 14 and I was in the garage sitting on my bicycle, and my older brother came in and he started talking to me, and he asked me, he said, have you ever thought of being baptized? Are you ever going to get baptized? And I just said, yeah, I've thought about it. And he immediately ran inside and told my mom and dad that I wanted to get baptized. So, it put me on the spot right away. So I couldn't just say, no, I don't want to get baptized. I didn't feel like I could. And so I went through with it, even though I was thinking, how do I believe in God? I don't know how to do that. I never talked to him. He's never talked to me. But so I went through with it in spite of my doubts, and I felt like I was a liar when I made that confession. You got to believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God or whatever. I wanted to believe it, and I tried, and so for years, that's what I did, just kind of put that in the background, and tried to live out Christianity the best I could in spite of that, and I just kind of tried to forget about it, and I don't know, it's hard to forget that sort of thing. It always kind of comes back to you. And I feel like what the church that I went to was a really legalistic church, um, hardcore legalistic. And I felt like that they kind of replaced the actual conversation about faith and its groundings with the legalistic topics, like women shouldn't cut their hair or speak in the church or do that. That was their battle for faith. And so I never was able to confront my questions because that's the things that we always talked about. And it was like, I don't know, camouflage or something. I don't know what the right word is. But
Well, could I ask, just forwarding to your more recent experience, what is it that caused you to heavily deconstruct, and what's keeping you in the spot you're at versus deconverting?
um, I would say that I'm mostly deconverted from Christianity. I feel like maybe there's part of me that thinks there's a spark of it that's true, something that instigated it might be true. I don't know where I'm at with that. But what's keeping me in it is as far as a belief in God is, I don't know. From my perspective, I've looked into a lot of evolution. I've got some books on it and read on it, and it sounds like it's pretty grounded. But everything just seems so complicated, including our minds and our thoughts and everything around us. I just believe that there's some sort of creator, and I would never say that he cares if we believe in him or or whatever. But I just believe that we were created, you know. So that's kind of what keeps me in it. What was your other question?
Just curious, kind of what was some of the early seeds that really got you moving out of it? Was it mostly about evolution, or was it other stuff too?
No, no. The main myself, and it's a little different. I think the main question was, if I was to put it in just a concise statement, it would be something along the line of the Bible says that God is love, but yet the gospel is the only thing that can save people, and most people don't hear about it. I mean, I could have just as easily been born in the South American jungle, you know, and never heard any of that stuff. And so that's probably the main question that catapulted me into this, where I'm at now.
That's a good one. I think I touched on that a little bit in my life too, with my desire to do tribal missions. So I definitely and Bible translation. So I definitely hear you there. It's an interesting thing when you realize that you're basically saying that either they're all bound to hell regardless, or if you take that sort of middle ground where you say they are sort of going to be judged less harshly because they don't know yet. Well, the minute that you go as the missionary and tell them, now they're going to be judged completely harshly because now they have the Word of God in front of them and all that. But could I ask?
Well, I mean, I was just read. If I could interrupt you, I was just reading in Romans chapter 10. I was doing a little back and forth. To call Jesus will be saved.
James, I'm sorry, we lost you there for a second. Could you start that last sentence over?
Yeah, I'm going through a bad spot here. I may cut out altogether. Can you hear me?
I can't for the moment. Yeah, we can certainly if it doesn't work, we can certainly have you back when I'm going to do this again before long, and we can certainly have you back when you're just like at home or something.
Yeah, I don't know where I was at now. What were we talking about?
I was just talking before about sort of what were the things that caused you to deconstruct, and I was talking about going to trying to do tribal evangelism and church planning and Bible translation, and you were saying you wanted to jump in on that.
Oh yeah, the Romans chapter 10. I was talking to somebody. It makes it clear that the only way you can be saved is if you hear the gospel. It says, "How can they hear unless somebody preaches to them?" You know, and that's the only way they can be saved.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see any way around that, because he was making the case. They'll make these exceptions, but they don't come from the Bible. Like the exception would be, well, God's just and He's going to do what's right, but that's not what the Bible says. You're just pulling that out of your backside, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the best parts of the journey for me is when you step back from all these theological questions of how do you interpret this passage and that passage, and just you step back and you have the scope for the imagination to say, maybe this is mythology, and maybe the guys that wrote these, even the epistles where it's not really about mythology, is they're just kind of creating theology at that point, that they're just mythology based worldviews that these men are trying to develop, and that eventually you get the ability and the freedom to say, none of this actually matters. It doesn't matter how I interpret this passage or that passage. It's all irrelevant. It's a beautiful thing to have that freedom. But can I ask, is there anything specific that you think you would want to talk about that would help you today with where you're at specifically?
Some people seem to cope with this deconstruction probably better than I have. It's caused a lot of stress and anxiety for me, because I guess because I'm kind of holding on to a hope that some of it's true, you know, while at the same time realizing how in the world can it be true with the things that we've already discussed, you know. So it's given me a lot of anxiety, and I realize that I've got this cognitive dissonance or whatever you call it, but I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. One thing I would say that helped me a lot is I heavily deconstructed Jesus for a while with the Gospels, with the mythology based in those books. But I was still kind of had this back of my mind. But yeah, but that's separate from God, the God. And when you realize it's really not, that it's just there's different eras of mythology. That obviously Jesus was in the Greco-Roman times mostly for that mythology. It certainly grew out of earlier mythologies, but that was when the most significant syncretism and influence occurred. It's sort of easier to deconstruct Jesus, I think, but once you have that door and you deconstruct him and the mythology of the Gospels, you sort of eventually realize maybe this is happening with Yahweh as well. And it definitely is. It obviously is. He was just one of many gods of the ancient, you know, area where the ancient Jews were. And so you realize that the mythology is just an evolution. It's just one long evolution of people making stuff up. And I think once you get to that point, you realize the God character as we know him is Yahweh, and Yahweh is just a demigod among many other gods. It all falls apart. And I would recommend, I'll try to find the video for this, but there's a video by a guy named Bill Zercher. It's called Seeing Through Christianity.
I actually watched some of him based on
Okay.
you did an interview with him, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I watched that. Didn't he write a book?
Yeah, by the same name, right.
Right. I need to get that and read it. Maybe that would help a little bit.
Yeah, I'm putting the link for anyone that hasn't seen that. I highly recommend it. Bill Zercher is great. It's not that long of a video. The video itself, I think about an hour and a half. Let me see here. It's not that long at all, and basically, it walks you through both the mythology of the Old Testament as well as the New, in a way that makes sense. Let's see here. Yeah, it's about an hour and a half exactly, and he gives a lecture at a free thought group, but it's absolutely fantastic. And even if you can't read the book, the video goes through it, and it's really cool. But once you get to that point of saying, maybe this is all just people making up stories, doesn't mean you can't take something out of them philosophically or feel like you learned something and you can appreciate what they did to put these books together. But it is just mythology, all of it. Anyway, James, I know we've gone over 5 minutes here. Was there any other things on your heart you wanted to share before we wrap up?
What was just on my mind with you talking there, have you ever watched the YouTube channel Rational Farid?
Could you say that name again?
Rational Farid. Farid. It's like an Arabic name, I think.
I am drawing a blank. I don't think I have, but I might be mistaken. I'm going to look it up right now.
He goes into some of the how even Paul himself could have easily been a fabrication, and so he touches on some of that too. How they were just making stories up, that maybe not even out of nefarious motivations, but
yeah, I did find it. I'm going to put the link in. I'm not necessarily recommending that channel because I don't know it, but just if anyone wants to see what we're talking about, I put the link in the description there. But
yeah,
I'll
that's
take
cool.
a look at that later.
I'd be happy to join you again and talk to you sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. Especially if you're able to do it where you're at home, we'd love to hear more of your story. But I do wish you well in your journey. I think it's important to remind people too. There's nothing wrong at all with saying I don't know where I want to land yet, and if people want to stay in theism for a while, it's okay. We're not here to tell people they have to be atheists. We're just here to tell people our stories and to say we care about your journey, and we're certainly glad to encourage you in whatever way we can. But don't be ashamed that you're not an atheist at this point. Whatever, it's your journey.
I am what I am. I don't even know what I would call myself. I am what I am.
Exactly, and that's part of autonomy, is us respecting each other's journeys and saying, we're just trying to take away the falsehoods and leave as many truths as we can, and just love each other through it. But thank you so much, James. Really good to meet you, and I look forward to chatting again sometime.
All right, thanks for your time, Tim.
Thanks, James. You too. Bye-bye. Well, thank you all so much. So that was a lot of background noise, but James, appreciate you coming in to share your story. And it's a hard job. I've never been in a truck like that in my life. Certainly, of course, we see them all the time on the roads, but I've never been in one. I can't imagine being a trucker. I'm sure it's a tough job in some ways, but I'm so glad that James was able to join us today. And before we jump back into some of my thoughts and my notes here, I wanted to go through a few quick comments. And certainly if anybody wants to jump back into the live stream, we can go that route as well. see here, going back just a little bit. Disillusioned Pony Tricks, great to see you. Sorry it's been so long since I've been doing live streams. I'm going to be trying to do them consistently here. Reading through the supposed prophecies made me an atheist. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, when you look at that from a apologetics perspective, it seems so bulletproof. But when you look closer, it's just card tricks. It's just smoke and mirrors. It really is. TSG, all the crap I was told about religion as a kid sounded stupid. Yeah, for some people, they have the ability to sort of have their spidey senses up earlier. I did not. My brainwashing was pretty intense and pretty thorough, and I was pretty much hook, line, and sinker. I was the sucker in the room. I believed it all from the earliest days, but I'm so glad to hear that there are some people that picked up on the red flags earlier than I did. Marie Tate, great to see you. Hello from San Diego. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here. Darla Clark says, I hated when people told me I needed saving. Yeah, it's amazing the different ways that these messages come at us, but all in all, they're saying you're not good enough, you're sufficient, you should be ashamed of yourself, you're not acceptable as you are, and God wants you, and there's nothing you have to do except give up everything. If Jesus says it, if you want to be my disciple, you must give up everything and follow me. So for the low price of relinquishing your one short life, you get the promise of eternal life you'll never get to cash in on. Winter Sorrow, hey all, great to see you here. Yep, and Stephanie says there's a chapter in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, members call it the Big Book, called Two Agnostics that says something like, how can all these people be wrong? That's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. The way, when you're stuck in it though, when you're stuck in that worldview, you can't see it. And in some ways, I've been talking with some other people today even about this issue of, do we debate Christians, and do we constantly go up against the people that would come at this from an apologetics perspective? And the reality is, to go to the matrix, some people aren't ready to be unplugged. So you have to decide who's going to be really worth your time. I tend to focus my efforts on the people that can see it and say, I want to be out of the matrix. I'm done. Cold Iron says, my story is kind of boring. I was brought to church each week, but never realized I was supposed to believe it was true. I just thought they were using metaphorical stories to apply to real life. That's interesting. Cold Iron, I've never heard it described quite like that. I would say, I don't know if I would say your story is boring. I think everybody's story, if you tell it the right way, can be quite exciting. And we can work on that and get you to a point where you share your story. But it's interesting the way you phrase that, though. I would say that's in part either a different kind of denomination that I'm used to, or they just, if they're similar to the ones I was in, they just did a piss poor job of doing their job, which was to tell you this was absolutely really, really real, and you needed to believe it. Whatever bucket you'd put that into, it's awesome that you didn't get that, the literal interpretation shoved down your mind, because wow, if you didn't really believe it was all true, if it's all just metaphorical stories to take some kind of like Aesop's fables, take what you can, and it's just a story, that's awesome. So it sounds like you probably didn't have the left behind rapture kind of anxiety, and perhaps not the hell anxiety. If any of that's true, that's awesome. Very, very glad to hear that. But yeah, logical fallacy from the AA group. Let's see here. What denomination was it? See if we got an answer on that one. Yeah, Windsor, Romans 1 and 10, they're underrated contradiction. It is. It's crazy. That you do see the truth of the gospel just proclaimed all over creation. So there's enough to know your creator, but you can't actually be saved unless the preacher is sent and you believe the gospel. It is. Stephanie says the whole book is a logical fallacy. Yeah, absolutely. Why does my name have a crown and number? I don't see the crown and number. I'm not sure. Maybe that's something that you changed since. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's a good question, Stephanie. I'm not sure. So this is talking about the Rational for Read channel that James just mentioned. I've seen that channel a couple of times. I'm going to check it out. It looks interesting. That's being human, yeah. Hopefully the A word won't be so stigmatizing one day. Yeah, I'm hoping that people find that atheism is actually quite a good thing. It's fascinating to think. I mean, I feel like to me, it's just normal. But I think it's I sort of get my spidey senses up again to realize that we're looked down on in some ways by certain people because of interviews such as when Jehovah's Witnesses come on and talk about the idea of being an apostate. I'm like, apostate is a badge of honor. That's not a bad word. That's a badge of honor to be an atheist and an apostate and heretic. I don't know if I told you this, but I've written some songs for atheists, and one of them is "It's Okay to Be an Atheist." And let me see if I can find the words. Are you all ready for me to sing with my awful voice? You're not going to like my voice, but you'll like the words. All right. So forgive me. I'm not Frank Sinatra. I have no illusions that I am, but it's the thought that counts, right? All right, here we go. So here's the words. It's called "It's Okay to Be an Atheist." It's okay to be an atheist. It's okay to not believe in any gods. So many friends around me keep getting tricked, but I am so glad that I am free. It's okay to be a skeptic. It's okay to say when something sounds wrong. So many friends around me keep getting tricked, but I am so glad that I am free. It's okay to be a heretic. It's okay to say that Yahweh isn't God. So many friends around me keep getting tricked, but I am so glad that I am free. The last verse. It's okay to be apostate. It's okay to walk away from all the lies. So many friends around me keep getting tricked, but I am so glad that I am free. So I got a whole bunch of those. I look forward to getting back to writing songs. Not that I want to sing them. I'd love for someone that's got a good voice to sing them, or at least sing them with me. But I've got probably 200 songs like that I've already been working on. So someday, when time allows, I'll get back to that. And so let me get back to a few more comments here, and then we'll get back to the notes. Unless, again, somebody wants to join us in the live stream. See you, Jojo Talks. Great to see you, Jojo. Thank you so much for joining us. For anyone that doesn't know Jojo, Jojo has a YouTube channel as well, and she's also was on my YouTube channel here in an interview just a couple weeks ago. So I will put the link for that here in a second. And let's see here. That's the one for Jojo Talks there that I just plugged in. But please do check out her interview and support her. Check out her channel. Christians be trying to shame me in my comment section on Facebook. Here I am trying to set them free. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and I think there's a place for fighting the Christian ideology, but for me, I've found that my biggest bang for my buck is to just pretty much ignore them and block them. If they want to fight, I'll block them. If they want to talk about it, I'm open to it a little bit. But if they really just want to find a way to argue, I'm just going to be like, you know what? There's other people that are really ready to be unplugged. Cold Iron says ELCA tends to be more progressive among the Lutherans. Okay, that's great. Yeah, my dad went to a Lutheran church for many years when he was growing up, and I remember part of his testimony was he would always say he was shocked when he finally went to like a Baptist church where the gospel was really, really, really a big deal. That he was like, I grew up in this Lutheran church, and they never shared the gospel once my entire childhood. Here I go to a Baptist church, and they share the gospel every week. And that was kind of his big deal, and he was always concerned about his parents that still went to the Lutheran church till the day they died, but it was just that was their cultural plug-in. Witchmaster, I've never sinned, but I suppose I would if I could. Yeah, exactly. I like that. Ben Gillis, personally, I still like to believe in God. I like to call myself a humanistic theist. However, I have high respect for atheists. Would far rather us all be atheists than God-fearing religious people. Yeah. Can I get an amen? Yeah, it's. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that I don't know if they want to. The word God itself has so much baggage because we culturally have already defined it. But you have to right away just say, well, why is it singular? Why is it not? Why is it plural? Not plural? Why isn't it? I still like to believe in gods, and so many of us would instantly use the pronoun he. Like, I think God's out there and he's doing this. Like, well, why not? Why isn't it a she? And or why isn't it, whatever unisex or whatever? It's amazing the things that we put into language, and so we almost need to find a new vocabulary to even start to think about the things where we would say, I still believe that there might be a higher power or something. But I mean, it's natural, I think, to think that, both in the sense that we inherit this worldview, but also, it's an important question, like, why is there something rather than nothing? And it looks like, if you walk into a billiards room and people are playing pool, and you weren't there a second ago, you walked around the corner, and a second ago before you walked in, you heard a big, snap, like it sounded like someone took their cue stick and hit some balls. And the minute you walk around the corner, there's balls moving on the table. Well, what do you think? You think that probably right before you got there, somebody set those balls in motion. I think there's a lot more to it than that. That's a significant oversimplification of it from a theism perspective. But, if we're going to start with just the most basic, simple observation of, like, there's balls in motion in the universe, who set them in motion? In our very limited perspective, it is going to be such that we're going to say immediately, well, maybe maybe this is a god or some kind of higher power. So let's see here. It looks like I've got someone else ready to join, and so we'll come back to the comments in a minute. Bear with me one second. Hey, am I pronouncing it right? Is it Ayaz? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Are you speaking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Oz. Yes. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How do you pronounce your name? I'm sorry. How? I think you're still on mute or something. How do you pronounce your name?
Isaac.
Isaac? Did you say Isaac?
Isaac.
Okay. And where are you calling us? Where are you coming in from?
New Zealand.
Oh, nice. Very cool. What did you want to share with us tonight?
New Zealand. Yeah.
Nice. And what's on your heart about sharing your story with us, or do you want to just kind of summarize where you've been with your journey? I think probably because you're so far away from us, from me here in Atlanta, we have a little time delay, which is acceptable.
Yeah.
If you can hear me, just tell us what's on your heart.
No, I just want to just say thank you, man. Just been watching your channel for quite a while, and
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us?
yeah, just yeah, it's just I'm like with Christianity, and I sort of came in at 2010.
That's awesome. How's the healing been going?
Oh, it's been a really tough journey, man.
Well, it sounds like maybe we either have an internet connection or we'll have to talk some more. But I'm gonna let you go at this point. But thank you so much for your support and for being a part of the channel. But reach out if it's just an internet thing, we can work on it. But I will let you go. But thank you so much for sharing your story tonight, and I wish you well with your journey. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to the comments for a second, and then we'll go back to some notes. Let's see here. Darla says, we won the lottery being atheist. Life's lottery. That's awesome. Let's see here. And yeah, I totally agree with that one. Ben, your voice isn't bad at all, Tim. Absolutely, Yahweh is not God. I like to believe God is the total opposite of that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hopefully with a little bit of music lessons, perhaps I'll be able to get to a point where I'm happy with my voice. We'll see. See here, Robin Sandalwood. Most won't land where I am, so take it with a grain of salt. But generally, I found my Christian family, friends, coworkers, etc., are much more accepting of me being Buddhist despite being an atheist. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's interesting thinking about how people respond differently. And I think one of the coolest things is when Christians can respect you. But it's I have so many stories where it's just, I would say 95% of the stories I hear, I just ballparking it there, but I think most of them are pretty nasty to you. So that's awesome. It's awesome that you found a way of being accepted. So it hurts when people write you off. So bear with me one second here. Bear with me just a moment. Sorry, I had to take care of a troll here. See here. It's much more about the negative connotation associated with the label of atheist than anything else. Yeah, I hear you, Robin. And that's definitely, there's places where it's probably better for some people to kind of take it easy with the verbiage that they use. I agree. And I wish people well with their journeys, especially when it comes down to family and friends that might really judge you for it. My uncle looks at me like I'm going to combust when I talk about being an atheist. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to have some of these conversations. I do think that for me, I felt the need personally to be pretty out there pretty quickly when I deconverted, to tell everybody what was going on. But yeah, there's definitely a place for some people to take it easy and just go to slower pace. I like the Satanists though. It's interesting. Satanists, when you're a Christian, you think that they're just people that worship Satan, but I've met some people online who claim to be Satanists who say it's not what it's about. So I need to get more educated about what Satanists do. But so your Philip Chandler says, I'm just eating late dinner, but if you're doing this for a while, I'd love to hop on and share my own story. Yeah, take your time, Philip. I'm probably going to do this for just a little bit longer tonight, but if it doesn't work out tonight, for sure, I'm going to try to do this again before too long. I'm trying, for anyone that joined us later, I'm trying my best to get back to live streams and hopefully almost every night eventually. It's been a journey with having 4 kids at home, but they're awesome, by the way. They're doing great, thriving. So good to see how they're doing. But they're a handful. So I'm going to go back to my notes here till we get anyone else that wants to join in. And again, the link is, let's see here. The link is right there. But I did want to mention, I've mentioned before the idea of, starting with the emotional side of your journey and really talking about the depth of your belief, how much it was real to you. But you also want to talk through the theology. What did you really believe? What were you taught? How did it affect you? But also, in a related sense, when you're doing your interview and you're sharing your story, whether it's with us or another YouTube channel, just with friends, you do want to speak the language that you were raised in, the Christianese in general, but also the specific Christianese that you had, but, deconstruct it gently. So for example, if you want to say they taught us about sanctification, there was this holy progression of purity. But what they didn't tell us was that it could become a straitjacket. You want to take the words that they use, sanctification, holiness, justification, whatever, atonement, propitiation, all the big ones. You want to deconstruct it, and you want to find sometimes even poetic ways to say what was really going on. So again, this was the language we used, but that was a straitjacket. Both the actual theology and belief was a straitjacket, but the way that they couched it in these beautiful terms of like, God's just making you into something beautiful. He's refining you like gold with dross, and you're going to shine more brilliant than ever. It's a way of getting you to accept the straitjacket and the handcuffs without you knowing that it's happening. They're trying to get you to accept all this stuff. So let me see here. It looks like we got 2 people that joined backstage. Looks like, well, just got 1 here, but whoever just joined and dropped, feel free to jump back in if you want to. So your Cold Iron, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, where are you coming from?
Minnesota.
Very good. I don't think I've been through Minnesota. Well, thank you so much for joining. Again, tonight's topic for anyone that's joining us is sharing your deconversion stories. And so could you give us a 2 or 3 minute summary of your story?
Oh, as I was saying in the comment area, grew up, went to church every weekend, but from my perspective, it was more of a just cultural thing. The preacher would preach, here's a story from the Bible, and here's how you can apply it to your life kind of messages. And it was always just a metaphor to me. So it never really got impressed on me that this was something you needed to believe in. It's just, here are stories to apply to your life. So
did you ever get the hellfire preaching?
Nope. No hellfire preaching at all.
So you didn't need a Lord and Savior in your life then?
No. So when I got to like teenage years, started hearing about, there are these people who think of these more extreme religious concepts from my perspective. I was like, oh, that's weird.
It is. Did you ever
I started asking people in my church about those things, and they're like, hey, you guys kind of believe that stuff too? I thought that was just the weird guys over there. And that started when I'm like, I'll distance myself from this a little bit more.
Did you ever get anybody that like aggressively tried to share the gospel with you and sort of bring it to a point of it being literally true and literally necessary to believe?
Not really.
Do you have any family or friends that are strong believers?
Oh yeah, my mom very disappointed when I told her that I didn't think that this was actual real stuff. She was very disappointed when I told her that. Two of my siblings, okay. Another one of my siblings who became a Republican, and he's kind of outside of the family in some ways himself because of that too.
So it sounds like, would you agree that you didn't really face a whole bunch of religious trauma?
Yeah, only trauma is like my mom having trauma, having a son that doesn't believe in it. That's the main trauma in the family, really.
Does she try to get you to get serious about it, or to at least think through it with you?
At first, when she found out that I didn't believe in the stuff, she did. But it came to an understanding of it's something we just don't talk about.
Yeah.
And she evolved her theology of like, okay, he'll be able to possibly accept Jesus after he dies, and he'll get another chance to accept then. She modified her theology into that.
Yeah, they almost have to, unless they're going to turn themselves into monsters and believe that they'll be super happy in heaven while you're burning in hell. Otherwise, they're really monsters. Yeah, it's crazy what the mental gymnastics. Well, I'm so glad that you. I was going to say, I'm usually telling people I'm glad you escaped. I'm glad you never got caught in the first place. But did you have anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, when I realized people actually were expecting people to believe it literally, I basically formed my own kind of, not Pascal's wager, but my own version of it, because I wasn't familiar with those things, where I was like, okay, instead of how Pascal formed it, I was like, I can either believe in a God or not believe in a God. And then there was like a God I would want to believe in versus a God that I wouldn't want to believe in. And it's like, I wouldn't want to believe in a God that I wouldn't want to believe in. But any God that I would want to believe in or would be okay with believing in wouldn't actually care. So I was like, not believe just became the better of the two options.
I got to admit, I'm a little jealous. I in some ways can't imagine a life without the oppression of the old worldview. So I would love to step in your mindset, if even just for a few minutes, and just see the world through eyes that they're not even like new eyes, they're just eyes that weren't ever tainted by all this. But I'm so glad that you didn't get into the thick of it.
Family went to church every week, and churches we went to were more progressive. So there's
Yeah.
that too.
That's awesome.
My older brother told me about him going through confirmation, and the pastor at the time explained it as like, yeah, like communion, it can be whatever. And it was like, here's some Mountain Dew and Doritos. Let's do communion with this because it's the meaning that counts and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I remember, I forget the guy's name. I remember that one teacher at Eastern University who he did the same thing on a plane. He was like, yeah, they were serving. I had a Snickers, a bar, and a Coke, and that was the Lord's table in the plane. But well, I'm gonna let you drop here. I've got someone else waiting, but I'm so glad that you did jump in here, and I'm so glad again that you've had such a escape from the religious trauma that so many of us do talk about. But I appreciate you being part of the community, and hopefully some people that need a fresh perspective can speak with people like you who can kind of help us remind us that there is a whole new world out there that we have yet to perhaps fully understand, that when we're not stuck in the poison and we're not trying desperately to pull the roots up and just I think so many of us wish we could hit the reset button and figure out what that would look like. But anyway, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much, Cold Iron.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Wild Man Chris, thank you so much for joining. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing I want to discuss with you is your cure for insomnia, because I've had horrible insomnia. Can I give you a history about it?
Well, I don't want to get off topic too much, but I can gladly give you the information that helped me. But I'd love to more focus on your deconversion story tonight.
Oh, I haven't needed converted, but I'm struggling. I'm doubting and stuff, but here's what I'm concluded. I'm gonna believe in Jesus, but just enough to get by the skin of my teeth. But I'm still trying to be a rock star.
Yeah. Well, are you still a believer in any sense?
Yes. But right now I'm pursuing my goal with some songs I've written. I'm putting in my Spotify. My goal is to hopefully hit the top 40 with my songs and get enough money so I can get some cosmetic surgery, some stem cells, because I had a stroke in 2013, and maybe the stem cells could cure my insomnia, because it's the fear of death that's the root of my insomnia. What if there's no life after death? And that terrorizes me. And when I was younger, I could sleep because the body needs to sleep. But now if I have my trazodone 2 a night, I won't sleep a week at night. And if I had $1 billion, I'd give it all up to just be able to sleep every night.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this again. I do want to stay on target, and we're going to only be here a few minutes anyway. But I will tell you really quickly, and this is certainly something I hope anyone else that is listening can appreciate. I also had insomnia. I had severe insomnia for about 25, 30 years of my life. It was debilitating. I did try every therapy that I knew of, every medicine, felt like a guinea pig. And I was up in Philadelphia my whole life. But a friend of mine down here in Georgia, where I live now, told me about a special doctor who cured a bunch of things that no one else could cure. And I thought, what the hell? Why not try it? And I'm going to put the link in the description here for his website.
Can you email it to me too? Because I'm really interested.
It's in the comments. If you can see in the comments once we drop here, you can copy it. It's just Georgia Chiropractic Neurology Center. Okay. I've been to chiropractors, by the way, my whole life. This wasn't about chiropractic. He barely touched my spine the whole time. He was dealing more with left brain, right brain things. And he basically did about 3 hours of the weirdest tests that you've ever think. You think he's a quack. But great guy, Dr. Mark Ellis. And at the end of the 3 hours, he's like, yep, I can fix this. I can do it in about a month with no medicine. I was like, I've been on medicine for 25 years of my life. There's no way. He's like, nope, I can fix this. No medicine. Just wean yourself off over the next month and I'll fix it. And we did it. It was left brain, right brain. It was like he said, for me, and this is not obviously medical advice, and it would be different for different people, I'm sure. But I'll just give you a quick summary. For me, he said, I want you to not look at any pictures or videos for 6 months. I just want you to do reading and math facts. He said, I want you to exercise only on the left side of your body for the next 6 months. I want you to go to bed when the sun goes down. Do not have any lights on at night. If it's too dark, rather, to do anything at bedtime, leave the lights off and get in bed and be done for the night. And then the biggest thing probably was what's called an interactive metronome, where you hear the ticking, where it's tick, 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 but you have these things that you clap to the beat. And on the screen, it tells you if you're a little too early, a little too late. It sounds boring as hell, and it is. And there were times I would stand there in front of a computer for 8 hours just clapping to a beat. But it's the craziest thing. But within a few weeks, my insomnia was cured with no medicine. So again, he might not be in your area. I'm assuming you're not here in Atlanta. But what you could do perhaps is reach out and talk to like the staff there and say, hey, could you direct me to anybody in my area that might be able to talk to
cured,
me?
right? 100% cured.
What was that?
Well, you're 100% cured. You slept every night since then, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, for 25, 30 years.
Do you have to go to bed when the sun goes down now, or can you go to bed whenever you want?
I believe I probably should, but I don't. I've got too much to do. But I'm sure it would help a lot. I do. There's an interesting book out, actually. The book is called Lights Out. And it's fascinating. It's from an evolutionary perspective of how our brains evolve with light and how artificial light is killing us. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to keep the poison because I need the lights one to get work done. But I acknowledge it might be slowly killing me. But yeah, but anyway, I do wish you well with that. Again, Georgia Chiropractic Neurology Center. It's not regular chiropractic. I've been to chiropractors for 25 years before that. It's not the same thing. Chiropractic neurology is very different. And I do recommend them. Again, Dr. Mark Ellis saved my life. Awesome man. But I'm going to let you go. But I wish you well with it. I'm so sorry you're going through it. I know it's an absolute horrific thing to not be able to sleep, and I hope you get some good resolution one way or the other.
Before I go, can I sing a verse of one of my songs?
Is it about? It's not in favor of Christianity, is it?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. If I forget it, I had a stroke. Flowing brown hair, blowing in the wind. God, yes, I was looking at a goddess. I couldn't take my eyes off her long legs walking in my direction to answer to my prayer, and then suddenly, in front of me, like the lightning striking up a conversation with me, I was shaking like the waves in a hurricane. My heart was racing, and her name, Joanne. No, man, it's Joanne with an E. Ask, hey, what's your last name? Why didn't I ask? Hey, what's your last name? Why didn't I ask? Hey, what's your last name? Joanne.
We need to get you in with Eminem, I think. You guys will be an interesting mix. Well, Wild Man Chris, thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go there, but thank you so much. Again, wish you well. I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I hope good things happen for you soon. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. All right, and we're got a couple people here, so I'm gonna add another person. Sundance 270. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Looks like you got an actual setup. Are you a YouTuber?
Yes, I am actually.
Okay.
So background on that, I do like spicy challenges and hot sauce reviews.
Oh,
so
nice.
Kind of like why I've got a little bit of a setup. I'm also just like, I like to decorate my stuff. So
yeah, nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And did you want to share a little bit of a deconversion story with us real quick?
Yes, I did. I saw the notification pop up. I've actually wanted to contact you about doing a full interview, but I figured let's go ahead and I saw this. Why not? So
yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to look up your channel while we're chatting.
Okay, yeah. It's Sundance 270. So, where would you like me to start? I know I'm going to make it like a bite-sized version. So,
sure. Maybe I'll say what kind of Christianity did you grow up in terms of your denomination or beliefs?
Right. So I didn't at all. I grew up kind of like in a single-parent household. Maybe went to church like a time or two, but up until I was a young adult, I had like no upbringing in that. And as a matter of fact, in my teenage years, became like an edgy Satanist who was into like Marilyn Manson and all that. And so I would like argue and mess with Christians and do all that kind of stuff. But, this is a long story why it could be a full interview. Fast forward, I live here in Kentucky and I was working for a small record label out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I just basically was like, hey, I'll move out there, work for you guys full time. And then, just try it for a few weeks, then come back out here, get my affairs in order. If it's working out, move out there permanently. So I go out there. It's a 20-hour drive, and I rip the whole way through, which I don't recommend. I drank more caffeine than any human probably ever should. So I get to where I'm staying at with my friends who run this label, and they tell me about the documentary Zeitgeist. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
So like the first part is about how Christianity was borrowed from a lot of mythicist type stuff and all these dying and rising gods and things like that. Right. And me being the anti-Christian human that I was, I'm like, oh, this is great. Yeah, let me use this to like argue with people. And so I do a little bit more digging after watching the documentary, and I wasn't too impressed with some of the claims, like when it's like talking about how, oh, Jesus was born on December 25th, but that's not in the Bible. Like, I don't like, that's not the strongest claim that you can use. Like,
Right.
me trying to be fair, I'm like, okay, yeah, I still don't believe Christianity is true, but you got to come with something better than that. So, and this is the weird part, because it leads me to wasting 15 years of my life. It's like 3:30 some odd in the morning. I'm still doing some digging on that. And I'm like not too impressed with a lot of the mythicist comparisons, but I still don't believe anything. And I can't explain it. And I wish I had an explanation for it today. And I'm not trolling. It was like I heard a voice that told me to go home. And I'm like, it was so weird. It was like a grenade went off inside me, like, go home. And it wasn't me. It was no, I've never had audio hallucinations, none of that. And I'm like, what do I do with that? And I'm thinking it's God. So I pack up my stuff and I drive the 20 hours back to Kentucky, giving my life to Jesus. And for the next 15 years, follow him as hard as I can, because that changed my reality. So I thought. Last year was a nightmare. It's been like a slow, progressive, horrible. I don't know what to do with myself or this faith that I claim. And I'm like, why are you not here? Like, why is nothing better? And I'm working a job. I'm a self-employed contractor, so I get to listen to headphones all day, do whatever I want. And for some reason, deconstruction and deconversion come across my like YouTube, whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's just listen to these people, right? And because I'm angry with God, and I'm not like looking to that to like deconstruct, but I'm like, okay, let's just hear these people out. And some things started like, oh, they kind of make sense after a while. And then your channel actually came up, and I started hearing interviews from people, and especially from those of the charismatic background, where I kind of like leaned into. I'm like, oh, my story kind of matches that, where a lot of things aren't adding up and everything is dumb. And I don't remember. It was one interview you did, and it was like, I was rage quitting on God. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm like, you're asking so much of me to defend, and like, I've got nothing in return. Like, my life is a waste. Everything is terrible. And I was just so mad at him. And then you had done an interview, and you had said something about how Jesus oversaw the writing of the Old Testament. So basically everything in the Old Covenant, like, you kind of have to defend. Jesus defends. So all the really stupid, like, kill your neighbors if they're picking up rocks on the Sabbath, all that horrible, suffer not a witch to live. And I'm thinking, like, that is just, you're giving me nothing. I have nothing here, and you want me to defend that. And I was like, fuck this. I'm done with this shit. And I told him, I was like, you know where to find me. Like, you've got I'm done. And that was where I kind of rage quit Christianity, thanks to your channel. And it wasn't too much, a little bit later, listening to Aaron Ra's playlist of the Noachian flood debunked. And when he got to the point of all the like past civilizations that are record keeping, and it's like they never noticed they got killed, I hadn't really thought about that. And that's why it's embarrassing, because it's like 15 years of my life wasted for something that could like, oh, wait, no, that didn't actually happen. And when you lose infallibility, because that Bible's wrong, you lose the faith. You know, sola scriptura, if that's wrong, you're done. And I'm like, fuck. So that's where I've been at. That happened like December, January-ish, so many months ago. So
of this year?
Yeah. So just recently, like,
so you're fresh out of it.
Fresh out of it. So this is me trying to figure out my life. So Christianity did a goddamn number on me. Pardon my language.
You're at a hard spot. Wow. Can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
I know, again, we'll probably do maybe a larger interview at some point.
Yeah.
But just for tonight, how are people treating you so far when you go public with it?
So that's actually interesting. And I just added you on Facebook, so you could probably find the post. I made one just recently when I had kind of deconverted. I waited a while, and I told like a friend who came from all of that in the charismatic world, who deconverted herself. And I'm like, hey, I'm done with this. Like, what can you tell me? Like, how did you deal with the people? Because I know like she had some flack in her life and all that. And just kind of, she was really supportive. And I would slowly start to tell a handful of people here and there, very, very small amount. But just recently I made a post that said, you know, this has been my reality for 15 years, but I can't in good conscience carry on with it anymore. And I still love and care about all the friends I've made along the way. They're still some of the most awesome people. I don't have any problems with them.
Right.
And so everybody has, for the most part, actually just been really supportive and cool. And like, they just love me. I don't have any real pushback, you know. A couple people do want to talk to me about like why I quit and all that. And that's fine. I don't know if I'm ready to have that conversation because I'm really tired and stressed and overworked because life, you know. So but I decided it was finally time to pull that Band-Aid off and make a public proclamation of my non-faith. So there's that. But yeah, everybody's been great so far. So I've been fortunate in that respect because I know a lot of people do get shit that they shouldn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. One last question for tonight. I've got a couple of people I'm seeing here in the waiting room, but in a sense of the religious trauma that you hear in some of the interviews that people talking through, do you feel like at this point you have a whole bunch of things to sort of heal from, or do you feel like you've kind of done your healing slowly through the deconstruction process, or where are you with that?
Oh, I'm sure I've still got some things. Like I'll find myself at night, like when life is just still kind of not going great, and I'm like, I want to pray. I want to tell him like, I want you to be here, but I know you're not. And then other stuff like regarding like sexuality, a lot of that stuff has been kind of like insta healed. Like I don't feel guilt about a lot of things anymore that I used to. I like, it's my body, my sexuality, my life. I don't have to worry about, right? Nobody owns me, tells me what to do. Like, this is me. I'm cool with it. Like, and that's it. Like, so that was cool to like lose that weight of that guilt and that shame that a lot of that 15 years of like purity culture, like, no, that's helped. And then there was actually one healing moment, and I'll let you get to your other people there, is when I knew I no longer had to worry about how I spent my money, right? Because I want to honor the Lord with how I spend my money. It's like, no, I can do whatever I want now. And I remember going to the mall, and I bought and pardon the shirt, a Chelsea Wolfe record. And she's like a pagan singer and witch and all that, but she's a great artist. As I'm leaving the parking lot, I'm almost crying because like I felt so free to just do what I want without having this thought that I'm offending somebody who's not even watching. You know, like the church isn't watching. They're not going to care. But this is me like always under the eye of someone who is there who's not. And I'm like, I'm free. So there's been like some stuff to still work through. Like when times are hard, I'm like, I've got nobody but me. But there's been other stuff that have been kind of like really quick. Like, no, I'm good. So it's been fun.
It's interesting that you have had people pretty much like give you a sense of respect for it, because that is, from a lot of people's, compared to a lot of people's journeys, that is very different. And that's awesome. I do wonder if people will get more offended or upset if you get more vocal. But I don't have a plan on like if I were to turn my spicy challenge channel into all of a sudden railing against Christianity. And I want to be respectful to the people that I know. There are things though, like I just can't abide with anymore because like there is some worldview changes. And so I'm like, I don't know how like much I would push back in a very public way and use a platform. But yeah, there might be some pushback if some things were to come to a head and I have to deal with things. But I would always try to be respectful in that because especially everybody's been cool to me. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, very cool. I'm so glad you added me on Facebook. Feel free. Yeah. I would say since you're so new, I would encourage, and this is for anybody you're relatively new to their deconversion, just to really start to write it out. Write out both what happened chronologically, but also what was happening in your emotions throughout the time frame. But when the time's right to do an interview, definitely reach out. I'd love to have you on the channel sometime.
Heck yeah, I would love that.
And let me also get your. Bear with me 1 second here before we drop here.
Yep.
I'm going to put your channel in just to give it a plug.
Oh, thank you.
Might as well since we're here.
Yeah.
And let's see here. So Sundance 270.
Yep.
So if anyone wants to go see some spicy challenges, check out Sundance 270. Well, thank you so much. What's your first name again?
It's a Sundance. Just call me Sundance.
That's your actual name?
Yeah, it's my middle name I go by. So.
Okay, nice. Well, everyone go check out Sundance. Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. All right. Well, I appreciate so much for sharing your story, Sundance. And I've got two people. I'm going to go to Rich first, and Philip will come to you in just a minute. But Rich, I'm going to add you here. Rich, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I was raised by a chiropractor. That's basically the only type of healthcare provider I go to. I'm 60.
Nice.
I've had no vaccinations. I have great health. So I'm not going to get on a big sermon about that. But my dad was on to many things that are now being come to light and validated here in the modern day. We grew up being taught these things, just how the body works and how amazing of a system and a layer of systems that the human body actually is.
Interesting.
So
Very cool. Yeah, I certainly can say chiropractors changed my life, moderately for a while, but then the one that changed my life that I talked about earlier, he more neurological chiropractics, which is much more brain focused and spine focused. But
my dad was more than a bone mover. He was deep. I would say even he had a little bit of a Eastern philosophy that he never related it that way. But my family members and I agree that our dad had a power to see, if that makes any sense to you. He had an ability to see, and I can't explain it into that, but he had something. So
that's awesome. I want to get to your story in a minute, but I'll just say the chiropractor that I was talking about before, he did the same thing where I'd walk into his office and I'm thinking like, I'm going to get asked eventually to come back for my appointment. And I'm going to, he's going to ask me how you're doing. And sometimes he would be like already, like it was empty. He wasn't seeing someone. So he would walk up to come greet me. And before I could even speak the words, to say hello or how I'm doing, he would literally just like scan my body. And he could be like, he literally at one point said, I know what's wrong with you. And he meant like, I know why you're here today. It's like, I can see it in your face and your eyes. But it's amazing when people that really know the body really, really well. But in terms of why we're here, of course, could you tell us a little bit about your journey with Christianity?
Yeah, born and raised in Christianity. We grew up in the Southern Baptist initially. We were put into private Christian schools because my mom was afraid of everything. And my dad was her second husband. Her first husband had been killed in a car wreck. So I had an older brother from that man. And then I had my brother, Stan, and then me. And so our mom was afraid of everything. Now, a lot of what helped her come out of that was our dad. But for the longest time, we were going to private Christian schools. I was in it for 9 years. And I was inculcated with fear and guilt. And, I could not reconcile that before I was born, he formed me in the womb at the same time. We're born imperfect and we're all going to hell if we don't accept, this choice. Even as a little guy, that it just did not add up in my head, but I didn't question it because mom and dad, they were on the path. I trust them. And so some of the schools we went to several Christian schools. Some of them were very heavy into the don't displease Jesus, don't get out of the will of God, bad shit happens to you and your family. And I used to be afraid going to bed at night because I had started noticing girls and a little differently and thinking things. And I was afraid that Jesus was reading my thoughts or that God, and he was going to take care of me. And I was afraid to go to sleep at times. Now, this was not all the time, but I remember being afraid because I had done or said something wrong. Nobody knew about it, but I knew God knew about it. And I was terrified to go to sleep because if I die before I wake, pray the Lord my soul to take. That had been wired into me from childhood. When you do your talks, whenever you get the chance to throw this out, 0 to 7 is when you either empower or fuck up a human being. More than any other time in our lives, 0 to 7 is when certain switches get set. And although I'm a quite well-enlightened retired police officer now and a big-time bullshit spotter, those things still crop up that I must deal with in my mind at times in certain situations. They get dealt with, but there they are because they were programmed into me in those early years by basically the guilt cult of Christianity. I walked away. I didn't call myself an atheist. Here's a funny aspect. I watched, there should be an old show called In Search Of that Leonard Nimoy would narrate. And I saw one when YouTube was new, they replayed this. and it was on the ancient astronaut theory. And I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. Let me look at this. I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of crazy. But I started learning about all these ancient sites and how they tied in and how old they were. And they were much older than anything of the biblical stuff I'd been taught. So I began exploring, and I began to discover the worlds and the civilizations before, when the Bible says, there was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all those other things. And I started to realize that I'd been lied to. Millions of people have been lied to, sometimes by omission, and sometimes just, oh, don't look over there. Just believe this. Just believe this. And it started to work on me in my late 20s. And I've been a cop since 23, right? So having the investigative mind, getting used to being lied to, deceptive people, perpetrators, all these kinds of things, learning to spot that, I started seeing the same people that I was educated by and raised by, and the TV preachers and the people that my mom literally sent money to and stuff like that. And I started to think, this whole fucking thing is a fucking scam. And I began to dig, I began to research, I began to educate myself, and I started to realize that religion is a human-built mechanism. And if we talk about the Abrahamic religions, that was all designed to control. Initially, the Hebrews did it. But if Abraham was a real person, if he was real, he comes from Samaria. There's thousands of years of stories and myths and legends and information that is completely withheld from consideration if you're in the Christian or the Catholic faith. Don't get me started on the Catholics, because that's the biggest long-running cosplay convention I've ever seen in my life, more than Dragon Con or anything else. But anyway, that's my deconversion story. I started just paying attention and questioning. When I went and found the answers, I'm like, this is bullshit. So anyway, I hope that's beneficial.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I love too how once you see it, and I'm not referring to all the things you researched, because I can't comment on all those, obviously, but just referring to religion in general. Like once you see it and you really have that aha moment,
yes,
you feel like you're done. Like it's like I remember people asking me, well, if you think Christianity was not true and accurate as a worldview, did you then not investigate all the other religions next? Like, okay, that's one off the checklist, but what about Buddhism? What about Islam? What about Hinduism? And it's just like your spidey senses go up and your bullshit meter gets real sensitive, and you just think, nah, like they don't smell any, like, certainly if something comes across my radar that I'm like, yeah, I really should investigate that, I will do so. But at the glance I'm looking at of all these religions, they don't seem like they're anything more than just someone else trying to sell me some snake oil. And once you see the wizard behind the curtain, it's so freeing, but it's hard to ever get stuck again.
I'll close out with this, and I'll let Philip jump on. If I'm a created being, then my creator does not need another human or some sort of human-built organization or structure or anything else to interact with me, his creation, her creation, its creation. It doesn't matter. That's all, again, religious sites, Presbyterian, Catholic, Baptist, whatever, they're as prevalent as fast food joints. And they're the same thing. They're selling a product, but you can't get a Whopper at McDonald's. You got to go to Burger King, and vice versa. So you can't get Presbyterian over at Baptist. It's the same. When you analyze it, you suddenly realize, I've been lied to my whole life. You have. Billions of people today are being lied to. And but I'm not going to argue with people about it. I'm just going to explain to you, because this is a like mine. Hey, this is where I'm at in my life, and this is what I've seen, and this is what I've determined. So I'm just going to walk this way. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Absolutely. I was just going to mention real quick, it's interesting what you said about what you just said. It made me think of that book by Acharya, who wrote the book about astrotheology. She unfortunately passed, but it's called The Christ Conspiracy, but the subtitle is called The Greatest Story Ever Sold, as opposed to this told. But anyway, did want to ask real quick before you drop, Rich, your name there says Rich in Georgia. You're in the state of Georgia?
Yeah.
What, do you mind my asking if you're willing to share what part of Georgia you're in?
Yeah, I'm in Alpharetta.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I am as well.
Oh, sweet.
Reach out to me. Here, I'm going to put my link in for my Facebook page. Feel free to add me. Let's chat sometime.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
We'll go to Halcyon, get some Mexican food.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, thank you so much, Rich. Really good to meet you. I hope we can connect later.
Okay, bro. Thank you, man.
Thank you. And Philip, I apologize. We've kept you waiting far too long.
No,
Thank you so much.
No worries. I've been enjoying listening to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And where are you calling in from?
I'm actually from right near Toronto, Ontario. A little city called Burlington is part of what they call the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area. So I'm sort of part of that.
Nice, very cool. I'm so glad you're here tonight. What's on your heart to share from your story?
First of all, I should say I've got my camera here and the monitor here, so I keep kind of looking back and forth. So I apologize if I'm talking to you, but looking off screen. I keep looking over here, but the camera's here.
Oh, no worries. Do whatever feels comfortable.
Yeah, all right. I've kind of always want to kind of tell my story for a long time. I deconverted like ages and ages ago. My whole story kind of went from like 1986 to like 1996, but there's still a lot that kind of leaves a lot of residue of guilt in the head, and I still kind of revisit that time in my head quite often. I'll try and keep this condensed because I know you're trying to give everybody about 5 or 6 minutes, but my story kind of has like 3 different phases to it, so I'll try and kind of go through each. I have a little bit of an unusual story. My Christianity kind of changed a couple of times. Because I was 18 when a friend of mine invited me out to an event in Ontario, and it was just this big sort of Christian event. I think if anybody's familiar with the hockey player Paul Henderson, he was this Christian hockey player who was doing this big speech, and so I was invited out to this with this little church group, and on the way back, the youth pastor, who was this very looking back, he was nicest fella. He really did. His heart was kind of in the right place. But he shared with me one of those little tracts, and I read the prayer in the back of the track and went through that whole thing and became really involved in this church. And as somebody who growing up in school, I was very I'm an only child. My folks were Anglican, but not very involved in it. But they definitely had their beliefs. But I was bullied a lot in school. I was overweight, and so I had a very, very low self-esteem. And so coming into a church like this where everybody's very involved and you were involved in this youth group, you become sort of attached to all that, and you want to feel important, feel special. And so I went through all of that. But the one thing I had a hard time doing is I had a hard time focusing. I had a hard time in school and that. Whether I have ADHD, I don't know. I was never officially diagnosed with that. But I had a hard time reading the Bible, we'll put it that way. And so I always felt this immense amount of guilt through that I had a hard time getting kind of focusing on that. And so there's always this kind of torn thing in my head that am I actually really living up to what I'm supposed to be as this new Christian now? And already I'm not even 20 and my head's already going through all this. Again, I'll try and condense this. The youth pastor left, and I was kind of upset when he left because I really admired this individual. And so I was attending what was a Baptist church, which was much more reserved. The Baptist churches in Ontario anyways, but right down the street was a Pentecostal church, and I started attending that, and I had this whole new kind of perspective on it because they were very outgoing. And so now I started becoming sort of involved in that. There was quite a rift between those two churches. They're right down the street from each other, but they refused to be involved in any kind of outreach together. I could never understand that, why these two churches that apparently had the same kind of goals couldn't connect.
That's 2nd and 3rd degree separation for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've set up close myself.
Another thing that started coming about at this age as well, and I won't go too much into detail, is you start learning a little about yourself and the fact that I am not exactly straight. And that was a tough thing to kind of come to terms with in my head. And I fought it hard for a long time. When I went to college, I went to school actually for traditional animation. I was an artist, and so at the time, this was before computers and whatnot. So I learned to do hand-drawn animation and that kind of thing. I worked in studios for a little bit in the early 90s. So I went to school for this. I met an individual who I became very close to, became good friends with, and I think had a little something deeper for. But anyways, I became very attached to this individual, and he was involved in this small fellowship group. And this is where things kind of really flipped on their head a little bit, because this fellowship group was not really involved in churches. They had this whole different idea that your beliefs were based in grace, and it wasn't about whether you read your Bible every day or prayed every day. You had to find what they called the sinner's place, they called it, where you just had to come to God as you are and be honest as you are, and that God would accept you and you could walk in that. But, make no mistake, it was the same issues when it came down to it. Being gay was wrong and that kind of thing, right? So that didn't change. So I was part of this little fellowship group, this group of about 10, 15 people for about the last 6 or 7 years. But what also hit was that my mother got cancer. And so now I was torn with this, but I felt like I belonged in this fellowship group and I should be pursuing something in that. And I live with a horrible amount of guilt. In 96, again, I'm really condensing a lot here. I went to work at with a few friends at I don't know, like this little resort. It was a little resort at a beach up near Lake Huron. And things were coming to a head. I was losing my mind. I'm skipping over a lot here, but I couldn't handle life anymore. I was, and no one knew this. I was internally just being torn apart. And I remember walking out to the lake when I literally had like an overnight deconversion. I walked out to that lake one night, not able to take this anymore, and just looking up at the sky, clear lake, clear sky with stars, and went, if you're out there, like, I need a sign. I can't read between the lines. I'm not that smart. I need you to come down now and tell me what the hell to do, because I can't do anything. Because if nothing happens, I'm walking, there's nothing to this then, and I am walking away. That is it. I am done. I can't handle this anymore. I sat there for about a half an hour and got up, turned around, and I was done, walked away, and that was it. That was the end of it. I instant deconversion. I went and I kind of made new friends that time at the beach, and I had fantastic time. It was the most relieving experience of my entire life to just take a deep breath and
you said that was 96.
96. I'll never forget that night.
So you've been out for a while.
For a long time, yeah. But I think the hardest thing was the fact I was nice that my mother passed away in 99, and I was so grateful. It's still hard to talk about this, that I had a couple of years to spend with her, because I was so wrapped up in trying to find myself in this religion that I never got home as often as I would have liked to visit my mother and spend some time with her. And also I think I kind of lost a career out of it. I should have been pursuing more things. I could have been working in studios and doing more with my artwork, and again being involved in this fellowship group. There was a lot that went on, the dynamics with certain people, and I was almost talked out of it. No shame in getting a minimum wage job and this kind of nonsense. It was weird, but yeah. So,
would you say that at this point, because you've had some time to really reflect on your time in Christianity, would you say that there's a lot of healing that's sort of behind you at this point, or do you feel like there's still more parts of it to unpack?
I think for the most part it is. There's a point you kind of really do have to let it go. When I came out of it, I kind of wanted to start doing my own personal research into religion and whatnot. As I started looking into some books, I went, why am I doing this? I just walked away from all this to get away from this. Like I need to really spend some time on myself and find myself, and just I didn't want anything to do with any kind of religion at all, and I didn't even want to look into anything, and I just really need to spend some time figuring myself out. So yeah, I think as far as the church itself being involved in that kind of thing has long since passed now, but I think the hardest thing was the fact I still angry at it for taking time away from me. That was between 18 and 20. It was my 20s, my late teens, early 20s, developmental time in your life to learn who you are, discover who you are. And I'm angry at it for taking that away from me, and that I could have been in a different place in my life had it not been for that. So I think that aspect of it probably never go away. but I'm. It's given me this story to tell, anyways. I can share with other people.
Well, that's interesting. I definitely can relate to the feeling of lost time and lost opportunities, and it's hard to think about, what life could have been like. And in some ways, I feel like the best I can do is sort of just hope to give my kids the chance to, and obviously other people that I interview, not just them, but especially my kids, just the chance to see the world through fresh eyes. It's such a beautiful thing, and I'm not trying to necessarily live through them. It's my life is my life and my journey. Theirs is theirs, but just to give them a shot at a life of freedom, and a life without all the shackles and the poison. So well, is there anything else you wanted to add? I'd love to maybe dig in more with you another time, but is there anything else you had on your mind today?
I just to say that I've been watching you kind of on and off when I can for a long time, and I've always kind of hope maybe one day I could come in and chat with you for a bit. So I know this is short, but I would sometime love to chat more with you on this and maybe give a little more to the story. But I appreciate you the chance to come up here and do this for a bit. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and just for anyone that's joining us late, what we're doing here and what Philip's just done, I'm kind of, as you all know, I've been focused pretty intensely for the last few months on my kids, and I need support and help with that. But because of them being here with me, I've got 4 kids, 10 and under. It's just been really hard to find the time for the live streams, and I think caved into the fact that if I'm going to do it at all, I'm going to have to do it late at night, late for me, late in quotes.
I'm a night owl, so
that's good. I wish I could say I was, but I'm going to try. I'm going to be trying more and more to be doing this sort of live stream stuff where some of it is going to be more topical, but some of it's going to be more focused on having people come in. And even if I have a topic where people will jump in and share this. So that's what Philip did. And I appreciate your doing this today. And for anyone that's like, similar to Philip, where you're saying, I have a story to tell, I'll jump in, but I also would like to do a bigger interview. Please feel free to do both. Jump in when you can, but also write your story down, get the notes down, keep working on it. And, when the time's right, reach out, because we love the longer stories too. And it gives us a chance to, to really dig into some little rabbit trails and stuff. But Philip, it's great to meet you. I've actually been up to your neck of the woods once before. So it's kind of fun. It's funny when I was up in your neck of the woods, I also went to a very quiet lake and all that. So I was almost like going down memory lane as you're telling your story. Nice. But very, very nice to meet you. I definitely hope that we can connect again for your full story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great night. Great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Okay. So we have gone through, I think, everybody that's in the waiting room. Thank you all again so much. And what I'm going to do is, I had some notes that were kind of prepared in case we didn't have anybody that jumped in, but we did. And I was very, very honored that you all joined us. But I think what I'm going to do, instead of going back to my notes anyway, just because I can pick them up where we left off, we'll just do like link sausage and pick it up next time. I'm going to just go through a few quick comments and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Let's see here. We go back to a few. Bear with me. Cold Iron says, we did look into an interview a while back. My connection background wasn't the best. We put it off. Yeah, feel free. Once you get any issues with the technology, anything like that, feel free to let me know when you're ready. Definitely appreciate it. Ben says, I don't really like communion. Oh, I think I may have skipped something. I think I saw something from Ben earlier. Let me go back a little bit. No? Okay, I see it. So Ben says, I really don't like communion because I strongly oppose the idea that we need the blood of Jesus to be good with God. However, a part of me wants to say, how about Dr. Pepper and Wendy's chicken nuggets? There you go. I like it. Let's see here. Stephanie says, I have to go, but I do suggest looking up The Satanist. It was good to meet you all. Thank you so much, Stephanie. If you do check back in to watch the rest of the replay, feel free to hope you get to this point, I should say. And thank you so much for being a part of this for as long as you could. Great to meet you. And always remember, refuse, resist, and divest from Elon Musk's companies. By the way, for anyone that doesn't know, I do have another channel. It's much, much smaller. I'm hoping to grow it at some point. It's called The First Atheist President. I'm going to be doing more work on that eventually. It's not a large enough channel to be monetized, so it's not worth my focusing on at the moment, just for this, because I need to focus on what is going to bring in some income, which is this channel. But feel free to sign up for that one or to subscribe to that one, I should say, so that when I do start to produce more content, you're seeing it. To hear it. Miss I says, I like this guy, referring to the gentleman that was here sharing his songs. That was great. We do need to get you hooked up with Eminem there. I don't condone smoking pot, but I was saying that for the guys insomnia. Yeah, you never know. There's some interesting things that I don't know. I have not really researched that myself. It wasn't my journey, but I've heard some stories too. Growing up thinking the stuff was metaphor made it easy and natural to consider the mythicism beyond Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. Mythicism. Yep, you got it spelled there. And so I highly respect you if you don't believe in God at all, or hate God or the idea of God even. However, I like to believe in a God who provides everything for us and asks nothing of us. Yep, that would be nice. That would be nice. I agree. Disillusioned Pony Tricks, great to see here. I believe purity culture destroyed a lot of people's lives and marriages. Yeah, that is very, very true. Yeah, it really, really did. And for a lot of us, sort of like we were just chatting about, you get to a point where you realize you gotta reclaim your body, and you gotta figure out how to start over and say I'm great just the way I am, including my desires and all that. So it's been a journey. I enjoy my sexuality. Not that I'm a single guy, but I enjoy the sexual thoughts and so forth, and whenever I want to, and no shame. I literally there's no shame whatsoever in my heart anymore. It's just gone. I'm not saying that every part of healing from purity culture or every part of religious trauma is gone in my life, but I have zero shame over sexuality. It's a beautiful thing to get to that point. Ben again says, I highly respect you if you're unconvinced God is real. However, if you want to at least hope there's a God there for you to pray to, you can hope for that without having toxic religion with it. Yeah, I mean, if someone needs that, if someone wants that, you certainly can do whatever you feel is best. Just my encouragement is, whatever belief in some kind of theistic worldview you've got, just don't shove it down children's throats. They don't need to be told that if believe like me, or you're going to burn in hell, or you're bad because of your lack of faith. Sundance, great. Thank you so much for being on. Really good to hear from you. And let's see here. Ben again, leaving Christianity has been all freeing for me. Feel free to be my happy and authentic self and live the life that makes me happy and feeds my soul, and I'm no longer scared of God. That's a great way to put it. No longer scared of God. I love it. That's a great summary right there. Perfect. John Johnson's in the house. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. Yeah, you missed a lot, but just we felt the spirits moving, your early presence. But thanks for being here. We missed you too. And Ben says again, I'm alive. I'm a live and let live person with most things in life, but I would love to destroy religion. My issue with religion is it often encourages people to be afraid of God, or at best be inauthentic for God. Yeah, that's very good points, Ben. You're hitting some really big nails, really important points there. Very, very well said. I love it. And it's interesting when you talk about destroying religion. There's a video that I've seen. I forget. I don't think I've got the link readily available, but there's a video on YouTube where Christopher Hitchens was asked the question of, if you had a button and could just end religion on this planet in one quick motion, would you do it? And it's interesting, but he said, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. So you have to look that up. It's an interesting question. But anyway, let's see here. If I have a religion, it's humanism. Well said. I'm a little over 7 pounds. I'm sorry. 7. Is that 7 years? Yeah, okay. I'm a little over 7 years free of Christianity, and it's been the best 7 years of my 58 years of life. That's awesome, John. Very, very cool. I love that. Praise the Lord. Love, be kind, help someone who needs it. That's it. No religion required. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like John Lennon's song, Imagine. Imagine no religion, if you can. Reading the Bible has always been traumatizing for me, and I've always had a problem with it. If I was being honest with myself and not trying to convince myself or anyone else that I was godly. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just finally saying, you know what, I have not been honest with myself. That's a great... Ben, you're dropping some truth bombs on us here. I love it. You need to be a YouTuber yourself, I think, or something. Write a book or something. You're bringing some great insights here. The Bible is just a repeat of prior stories from prior cultures. Yeah. Think about hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of homosexuals who have suffered at the hands of Christian dogma. Think about that, Christians. Think about that. Yeah. So much damage we've done. And let's see here. Bear with me 1 second. I was going to United Church for about a year and a few months. They don't believe in hell there, but still have awful ways of justifying God's behavior in the Old Testament. Yeah, it's just amazing. Again, when you believe monstrous thoughts long enough, it turns you into a monster. When you're willing to defend this stuff and say this is completely a good thing, it's bizarre and so sick. Fellow human beings tossed to the side and dismissed by church. Pathetic. Yeah, really is. All religion, Christianity, is fear-based theology. There is no fear in love. Remember that. Yeah, and it's interesting how even the Bible says that, but yet it's full of fear. It's like if there's no fear in love, then why is your book full of fear? 1 John versus the rest of the Bible. Ben, again, I think a big reason I stayed at the United Church as long as I did was because I maybe had an attachment to the pastor there. Yeah, many do, Ben. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, if you get under a pastor where you like their preaching, you like their counseling, you just like they just feel like a linchpin for you in your relationship with God. It's a big deal. I'm going to go back to that for 1 second. I'll come back to your comment, John. I had that for a season. I certainly had it from a distance for many years with John MacArthur. I wasn't in California or anything, but had it as a admirer from a distance with him for 20 years of my life. But when I was at Bob Jones University, we had to go during the weekdays and even Sunday mornings to the Bob Jones Chapel for their church services and so forth. But we were required to go to a church on the approved list locally for Sunday nights. And I went to Mount Calvary Baptist Church, Dr. Mark Minnick. And I'll tell you, when I was a Christian, he could hit the high notes. I mean, he was he was a John MacArthur. He was like a Baptist version of John MacArthur to me. And I happened to be going through that church when he was going through Romans 8, 9, 10, 11. We're talking the high points of theology, of salvation, of election. And I literally, you could have, if he came, sermons are going to be like, in an average church, 15, 20 minutes. In a good church, when I was back as a Christian, if it was a good church, it'd be a 45-minute sermon. If I was in that church and he would have told me, I'm preaching today for 4 hours straight, I would have said, do it. Please don't stop. This is great stuff. Great stuff. I couldn't get enough of him. So I experienced that too. I know what you mean. John says, I miss your live streams, Tim, big time. Thank you so much, John. I'm hoping to do a lot more. I'm sorry that they're all at the moment going to be, not all, but most are probably going to be around this time frame, 8 to 9, 8 to 10, probably a lot shorter going forward, just more like an hour. We'll chop it off, but I'm trying to get back to the rhythm. I was at the high point way back, like September, October. I was doing an average. It's just hard to believe it. I was doing an average, like when you look at the whole month, it was an average of 3 videos per day. At the high point. That was crazy. But I'm trying to get back to at least 1 to 2 on average per day, and hopefully we'll move it up from there. But Robin says, John, with due respect, I take issue with that kind of language. Non-theistic religions exist. Not all religions are dualistic, tribalistic, and fear-based. These are traits of Abrahamic religion. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly going to be a wide variety. That's true. And I think there's going to be good and bad points of all of them. I mean, I remember when I was in New Guinea, we were with tribal people for quite a while, and we heard stories. You'd think in some ways, well, they're not doing the same things, but they lived in utter fear, and the patriarchy was off the charts. I mean, they literally treated women like dogs. I mean, literally. Over there, I remember speaking with one of the men in this tribe who was at that point a Christian. He was actually an elder in the church that had been planted there in the middle of the jungle. You literally had to, take a little plane to get to the little airstrip to then walk 3 hours through the rainforest to get to this tribe in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was, if you got bit by a snake, pretty much, kiss your life goodbye. You're not getting to an ambulance anytime soon. But he spoke to this guy in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, yeah, when I wasn't a Christian, I used to take a stick that was in the fire, just, stick in the fire in the big bonfire. And if my wife upset me, I'd just stick her right in her side and burn her. And no one would say a thing. They'd be like, that was normal. And there were stories, I think in Mesoamerica area, like is it Venezuela or something? But girl pulling, where one tribe would say, I want to go to that tribe and grab a girl and bring her back as my wife. If you got her and you kind of kidnapped her, they would consider that a done deal, which is bad enough. But if the tribe realized it was happening at the moment, they'd literally just play tug of war with the girl. and pull her to death. So there's some tribalistic religions that are very different from Abrahamic religions that still have some things that absolutely are ruining their lives. So religion all over is doing damage. A lot of that stuff is not all religious, some of it's cultural, but there's a lot of religion mixed in there in terms of the patriarchy. Especially, I think a lot of women in these tribal cultures are treated very poorly, which is heartbreaking. But I do hope for this world in general, and certainly just all over, for there to be a slow but progressive shift towards rationalism that ends up treating people, whether we're talking about women and the end of patriarchy, or we're talking about homosexuals or whatever, the LGBTQ plus community. There's people are respected more and more, and it's so heartbreaking to me to see what's going on with politics right now. It's just, I wish I could sort of split my time with the First Atheist President channel, because I really want to be more vocal, but we've got to do our best to spread the word that we're not going to let these crazy mythologies dominate our world any further. It's time for them to end. So Cold Iron says live stream hangouts are fun. They are, absolutely, and I hope I can make them more fun in the future. Just sort of kicking it out, kicking off the hopefully many more times here shortly tonight. But I hear you, Robin, and I'll just keep it to Christianity. Leave religion off the list, yeah. And Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism are all excellent examples of non-theistic religions. Satanism is an excellent New Age one. Yeah, there's some interesting parts of it. I mean, I don't know enough. I feel like I want to make some comments about those, Robin. I don't honestly know enough to speak with enough information to really say about all those. I've heard some things, both good and bad, about them all. I remember Dr. Richard Carrier talking about Taoism quite a bit, but I do look forward to getting more educated, and maybe I can bring those up in a conversation sometime. But either way, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that we have all been lied to in many ways about the mythology. That wherever there's mythology that is not, like, people just don't know that it's mythology. I think that's my goal. That's my rallying cry, is let's let people know where this stuff came from. And then if you still want to go down that road or that road, it's your life. Do it. It's your short life. Make the most of it and do what's best for you and your heart and your mind and your mental health and your body. But, don't deceive people and tell them this stuff is all true. That's my biggest heart in all this, I think. We have different perspectives, and I'm good with that. We're on the inside, so I've never have hatred for anything or anyone. Yeah, that's awesome. I agree with you about the religion portion. Good point. Ben, I agree with you, Tim. I strongly oppose the idea of hell, and you don't need to believe like me at all. Yeah, absolutely. I like to believe we're all the same on the inside too, John. I like to believe everyone's good at heart. I like to believe in original goodness. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and I like, honestly, too, to also, I think some of those things are good, like cliches like that are good to sort of wake us up and shake us, like, oh, that's an interesting way to put it. But I also think it's important to recognize that literally some of the words that we use are meaningless in the sense that, like, they're just not reality. And for me, for example, one of the big words has been the word worthlessness or worth. There is no such thing as worth. And, when you deconstruct first, you might start by saying, my worth was only found in Christ. But no, I've got worth inherently. And it's like, that sounds nice, like you're swinging the pendulum from this horrible toxicity to something decent and good and normal. But we're still ignoring the fact that worth isn't a thing. I mean, how often do we talk about turtles having worth, or fish having worth, or monkeys having worth, or worms having worth, or trees having worth? Like, they're just animals. They're just there's living things on this planet. We're just living things on this planet. We're just another part of the beautiful evolution that's occurred. It doesn't mean we can't talk in those ways poetically that build us up, but our striving for worth is in part residue from the toxicity of Christianity, but it's also part of the fact that our consciousness is it's a beautiful thing that's honestly in some ways terrorizing us. It's wonderful and it's awful at the same time. It's given us the ability to have such beautiful feelings and also such incredibly horrible nightmares. Consciousness is just really advanced math in our heads, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm concerned so far, I know there's people that would disagree with that, and that's okay. But to me, consciousness is just chemicals in our brain that kind of went into an AI mode. And I know that's the key word these days, but our brains kind of went into AI mode from primates into where we're at. Our brains became the supercomputers of the animal world. It's awesome, but the hard part about that is that it gave us the ability to have beautiful dreams and beautiful nightmares, or horrible nightmares, and these emotions that honestly just ravage us, and worth isn't a thing. If you're striving to heal from Christianity, I encourage you to consider, don't necessarily get stuck in the idea of saying, I have worth without Christ. Start there because you need to, but then eventually say, worth isn't even worth talking about. It's not, I'm playing words here, so to speak, but it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Goodness is not a thing. Morality is not a thing. Morality is something that we've created. It's a construct, and we have to live within it in our society. But ultimate morality is not a thing. There is no ultimate thing such as good and bad. There's no evil. I mean, how many of us would say that when a snake eats a frog, it's evil? That's just part of nature. We have to live within a moral framework, I think, within our society. But ultimately, it's not transcendent. There's no higher power saying this is good and this is evil. It's just, and obviously, if a big rock ever hits our planet and just destroys us all, it was all for nothing. And that's the nihilist in me coming out, I guess. I don't have a problem with anyone attending church. If going to church makes you want to love, be kind, and help people, don't stop going. Yeah, well said. You're just believing a lie is all, but hey, if you love and are kind, I'm good with that. Yeah, exactly. Whatever people need, and we all have crutches. I mean, it's not to be patronizing. We all do it. It's where we can be self-patronizing if we have to say it that way, but we're all doing it. We all find crutches for what we have to get through and to get through our day and to feel like we've got purpose. Cold Iron says, it is tough when people think since some aspect of religion helps them, they transfer that to think the whole thing must be true. Yeah, that's a good point. And we're going to wrap up here in 1 second. John says, most people need a leader. However, none of us do. It's a choice, really. I refuse to be led. I'll lead myself. I'll listen to any information out there, but I'll walk my own path. Easy. Yeah, ultimately. And I would add, John, just to piggyback off that, I think it's been interesting to me to realize that our journey in both literal and poetic senses is just very much more alone than we ever thought. We're alone, meaning we don't have a God looking over us. We don't have a God that's waiting to judge us, but also, people come and go out of our lives and then we go. We are alone. They are alone. We are basically all people that are much more alone than we would want to admit. And in some ways that's incredibly painful. But once you come to peace with it and come to terms with it, you realize that you have to face reality as it is. Nihilism is in some ways for me a journey of coming back to a place of peace with reality, to say, I don't like the way that this universe is. And that's part of the Christian trauma coming through. I wish there were more to this reality. I wish there were a bigger calling or whatever. I wish, there were rewards. If you live a good life, you think, well, what am I doing this for? Ultimately, you're doing it to leave the planet better for the next generation, but there's nothing else you're doing it for. And in 2 or 3 generations, no one will know our names. And you have to come to peace with that. I don't say that to be depressing, but to say we have to come to peace with what life actually is. If you want as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible, you have to come to reality. And reality is, these things such as worth they're not part of reality. They're just constructs. They're part of our consciousness, and they're part of our language learning that evolved, but that's all it is. So don't let this advanced math called consciousness ruin your ability to experience life and just appreciate the short time we've got. Make it beautiful and help other people who are hurting along the way. So let's see here. Placeboism, believe in it and your life will be better. Yeah, take that sugar pill. I don't need church to tell me to be kind. I believe in being kind out of genuine care for others. However, I go to a Unitarian church and I love it. Yeah, there's some, I've even, it's been a minute, but Bill Darlison, I brought him on both to talk about his story, but also for the astrotheology side of it. Bill Darlison, he was a Unitarian preacher, I think in Dublin for many years. There's some good churches out there that are going to be on the Unitarian side and so forth. I remember years ago going to a Quaker church. This was when I was a Christian. It was just more of something I had to do for a class at Bible college. But I went to a Quaker church and they seem pretty harmless. I don't know enough to know for sure, but they seem pretty harmless. So there's some churches where you can go and it's less of a church and it's more of just a little community. So do whatever feels best for you. Awesome. We'll wrap up. This will be the last one. Sundance, great point on nihilism as peace with reality. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying. I definitely am not there, but I'm definitely trying to get to peace with reality and take life as it is, as opposed to how I want it to be. But I'm going to wrap it up there. We're like 5 seconds away from 2 hours even. I did not mean it to go that long. That's what he said. But thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all being here. And I do look forward to doing more live streams. I really hope I can do a lot more. I'm trying my best. If anybody is able to keep jumping into the live streams and keep supporting me just by showing up and watching them, I appreciate it. Also, if anybody wants to support my work and or my custody situation and so forth, all the links beneath this video. But thank you all so much for being part of my life, and I'll try my best to be in part of the community a lot more vocally here. And thank you so much again. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.